Well, hey there guys, what's going on? I welcome everybody back to the channel. So basically today we've got another 6-bore in the shop. This one here we're going to actually replace the turbo drain. The passenger side turbo drain, of course, is leaking, which is pretty common on these, especially with a truck with higher mileage. So let me show you the seal that actually fails on this. Okay, so this is the guy that's failed on this truck here. So basically over time, we've got pretty much, it's a metal sleeve with a rubber coating on it, and basically the turbo slides down over this sleeve here. And over time, the rubber starts to break down, starts to degrade, and basically what happens is, then you start leaking oil around the rubber part here. So, and basically, if you're going to go in and do that, you might as well go ahead and replace the driver's side drain too. I'm not saying that, they always fail, because they usually don't, but the problem is, being that the turbos on these trucks are difficult to get off, usually what ends up happening is the turbo actually gets stuck on this part of the drain right here. This is actually the part that actually goes into the bottom of the turbo there, the high side turbo. And you can obviously see, there's a stud that this actually sits in, and there's obviously another stud that this thing bolts down to. So, and that's the reason why, over time, when you have to put these turbos back on, there's such a real pain in the what to put back on, So this is a brand new drain from Ford. It was about 80 bucks. So we're going to go ahead and replace both of them while we're in there. So let's go ahead and get into showing you guys how to replace one of these turbo drains, or both of them, if you've got a leak on your truck. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and drain your coolant. This is a really messy job on this truck. It's a real long, drawn out process, especially if you guys are doing it the way that I'm doing it. Okay, so if you look up there on the driver's side, just above the frame here, you see the little spigot right there. You see the hose coming out, and it's draining into the bucket here. So this is how you drain the radiator on the 6-bore. Real pain in a what process. Real slow, drawn out process. But we could also do it the very dirty, nasty method too. So let's move over to this side. Okay, coming down to the bottom of the core support, the center front of the truck here, you're going to see where the two halves of the lower radiator hoses meet each other, okay? You've got this little metal snap ring here. The snap ring actually holds the two halves together. So basically what you'd want to do is just go ahead and remove the snap ring here and slowly work those two halves apart and get a big 5-gallon bucket, and you could actually drain it like this. Sometimes I have good success, sometimes I don't. This is the reason why I prefer doing this other method, and plus too, it's a lot cleaner, especially if you're working on somebody's truck in their driveway and they don't want to have antifreeze all over. And it just makes for a much better, cleaner overall repair process. So the next thing that you guys want to do is you want to go ahead and disconnect both of your negative and positive terminals on both of your batteries here. Same thing applies to the driver's side. But once you guys do that, what you want to do is you want to remove the intake right there. So you remove this intake, then you'll be good. So let's go ahead and do that. So basically what I did, just to be sure that something doesn't short out right here, because there's no give on these battery cables, just go ahead and remove both batteries. You're going to have to remove the other battery, because you're going to have to remove that tray. So I went ahead and removed the whole tray. Very easy, it comes right out, no problems. Then obviously this gives you access to this side. We really didn't need to remove it. All we're needing to do is get access to the turbos here. So that's where we're at. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to go ahead and remove this tray here. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to remove the metal retainer right here, the little snap ring right here on this upper radiator hose, and the same thing for the smaller hose that goes into the degas bottle there. You want to remove that small ring on it, and once you get the ring removed, then just go ahead and undo these hoses here and put them to the side. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5 13mm bolts. Once you undo these bolts, you can lift this whole reservoir with the battery tray right out of here. So with the battery box and the coolant reservoir out of the way, you can see that this opens up this whole area right here. So this way you can get in here and work on we need to get the fuel cooler out of here. This is the fuel cooler. It's the fuel cooler reservoir. Fuel cooler pump is right down there on the front of the radiator shroud. So we need to go ahead and remove these. You want to be careful. Put these somewhere, crimp them off with something, so that way you don't lose your coolant, so that way you're not having to reprime the system, because priming the system is a real pain in the unit what. So let's go ahead and start removing our lines, so this way we can get our fuel cooler and the reservoir housing off of here. Okay, so after removing those two lines here, basically what I do is I just tuck them under the charge pipe like that, so that they're up and out of the way. So next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and route this hose that goes into the bottom of the turbo actuator, route it on top of the fuel cooler like this, so that way you're not spilling coolant all over the place. So next what we have to do is we have to remove, you've got two 17mm bolts here, and you got some plastic little washers on both sides of these little banjo bolts right here. So you want to go ahead and remove these too. So let's go ahead and get these removed, and this way we can get the cooler removed next, or get this whole housing assembly removed, so that way we can get access to the turbos next. So now we've got the fuel cooler removed, so now you can see that there's plenty of access to this side where we need to get into. Basically I need to get my hand behind there to get those bolts on those up pipes. I mean, right now we've got pretty good room to get in there and do what we need to do. And basically, if you're this far and you're needing to do injectors, this is the even bank. This is 2, 4, 6, 8. That's the firing order on this side, and the other side is 1, 3, 5, 7. So the next thing we got to do is we got to remove this turbo feed line right here. This is the oil feed line right here. So right there, right here, you've got an 8mm bolt, and you've got your 17mm right in the back side of the turbo here. It's right here and right there. They use the same banjo bolts that the fuel cooler uses for the fuel lines. So let's go ahead and get this removed. Then what we'll need to do next is we'll need to get this heat shroud removed. Once we get the heat shroud removed, then we can get in here and we can work on those bolts in the back of the up pipe there. We can start getting this turbo ready to remove here. So let's go ahead and do that. Like I said, you've got, I believe you've got 6 or 7 of these 8mm bolts here. And if you're doing a turbo, usually the seal kits come with all new bolts for the heat shroud here, so it's not a real big deal. So let's go ahead and get this turbo oil feed line removed, and we'll get the heat shroud removed. Okay, so I've got the oil feed off the turbos, and I've got the heat shroud off. So what comes next is the tricky part. We've got the up pipe bolts that we have to tackle. This truck here won't be any problems. Pipes are new and they've been off the truck, so that's not a problem. The problem is when you get into a stock truck that still has the OEM up pipes on it, and that's where things get a little tricky here. So if this is a stock truck right here, you're going to have the EGR up pipe, or actually the crossover, coming up behind the turbo here, and that really blocks a lot of access to you being able to do this like I'm doing right now. The thing with this truck here is you can see that, you know, it's got aftermarket up pipes on it, so there's not a problem. So you've got 6 bolts that you have to tackle, and those are 10mm bolts. And so what we need to do is we need to get those bolts off of this thing. The problem is, once you round those bolts off, or you have one that you round off, guys, it's game over on this. Basically, what I would do is I would, if I was doing it for a customer, I would say, hey man, you know, let's go ahead and just put new up pipes on it, because, you know, if it has the stock up pipes on it, most likely sooner or later those bellows are going to blow it out anyways. If you're going to be in here doing a turbo or doing whatever, you might as well just go ahead and replace those up pipes. So let's go ahead and get those bolts broke loose, and we'll get this turbo out of here. Okay, so I went ahead and removed all 6 bolts on the up pipes here. You've got 3 on either side, and they're all 10mm bolts. You can see right here, they're both loose. And basically too, for the downpipe, just got a 11mm bolt on it, and I went ahead and went underneath the truck and unbolted that, so that way you've got as much room as possible in here to get these turbos up and out of here. Okay, so now we got to work on these bolts here. You can see that bolt right there, and then you've got one on the back side of the turbo here too. These are both 15mm bolts. Once you loosen those up and you get those out of here, you've got these big hold downs, and you got to remove both of these hold downs, or you can pull them out with the turbos, however you want to do it. It's up to you. But once you get those out, and let me warn you guys, those bolts are sometimes very difficult to get out. So your best bet is using a 1/2-inch breaker bar with a 1/2-inch socket and an extension on that. Don't use 3/8 drive, you'll bust it. So I've already got those broken, so now we can go ahead and remove both of these bolts, and then we can get under the turbos and we can start rocking these turbos and get these turbos out of here. Okay guys, I've got the turbos out just like I predicted. That drain on the passenger side is leaking. If you look down in the valley there, you can see right where the turbo sits into the slot right here, and you can see all the oil in the valley there. And as this truck is running, it's just pumping oil out, and it's just leaking down in the bell housing there. It's making a mess. This side here, no problems with that. I've already got the new driver's side drain in it, and you want to make sure that you put a lot of grease on these O-rings, so that way when you set the turbos down on the O-ring, it doesn't tear the O-ring. So I got the turbos right here. I just pulled them out, flipped them up. You can see that passenger side drain right there. That's the one that's leaking right there. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in. Got the new drain inside that side, and we're just going to go ahead and set them down very carefully, and we should be good to go on this. Okay, so I just went ahead and set the turbos back in place. This is a 2-person job setting these turbos back in. I've done so many of these that I've never had a problem with one of these sealing. So want to watch, like I said, you want to watch that side drain, and you want to watch the dowel pins. And once you get everything lined up, just want to very carefully just maneuver it in place, and suddenly it'll just drop right in place, which this one did. So I know this one is good. I don't think we'll have any issues with it. But yeah guys, that's where I'm going to conclude this video. Obviously putting everything back together is just like, it's the reverse of taking it apart. So I really appreciate you guys joining me here today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if any of you have any personal requests of any videos that you want me to make a video of, or anything like that, I know I actually had a gentleman here request a front cover video. I haven't done one of these in a while, but we may have one coming here soon. But yeah, that's where we're going to leave it. I really appreciate you guys joining me here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.